Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom. Lucy and I are here chatting with Zak Garriss, who is lead writer on Life is Strange Before the Storm. Welcome back to the IGN stage.
Thank you so much.
We got to chat with you at E3 about this prequel, and now here we are. You're only 9 days away from release.
Yeah, we're ecstatic. August 31st, Before the Storm.
1.
Yeah, episode 1, Before the Storm. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC.
And gamers at the show can actually get their hands on some of the game, right?
For the first time, yeah, we're doing hands-on demos, so people here at the show are going to get to actually play as Chloe. Yeah, first time ever.
What's the little slice of the game that they're going to get to experience?
So we're going to look at the mill, the sort of punk lumberyard, illegal band scene that we saw in our release demo.
Now, speaking of punk, you have recently announced that you've collaborated with a band for this game. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there's a British indie folk band called Daughter. They're amazing, and we have worked with them to compose a completely original score for all of Before the Storm. So we shared a number of briefs with them about the themes and the elements of the game that really kind of explore who Chloe is and what the story is and the mystery of Arcadia Bay this time around. And they've drafted music specifically for the story that we've created.
That's cool.
Yeah, what kind of sound do they have? I mean, when I sort of think of Before the Storm, when I think of Chloe, I think of she's got a kind of punk sensibility.
Yeah, I think there's something amazing with what Daughter's accomplished, because the sound that they've created for Before the Storm feels simultaneously, I think, fitting for Life is Strange, but at the same time different in the way that Chloe is different from Max. There's a kind of an edge to it that I think is fitting for her character.
Do you have plans to release the soundtrack?
Yeah, we'll have an announcement for that down the road. I think currently Burn It Down is a track that you can listen to on Spotify.
I see. Very cool. So tell us about this backtalk ability.
Right, so here at Gamescom we've announced a new gameplay mechanic that we've built specifically for Chloe. And the idea here is to give players the chance to sort of step into her shoes when she's at her most witty and at times maybe most brutal, but the ability to kind of push anybody's buttons through a special sort of dialogue minigame to elicit the kind of behavior that she wants from someone. So in the case of the mill, the footage that we've shared, where she's at this sort of illegal lumberyard, she had to talk her way past a bouncer. One of the ways that the player can get inside is through utilizing the backtalk system to convince the bouncer that she's tough enough that she belongs. So it's an interesting way to explore kind of how Chloe is very different from Max, but this is not an alternative to the rewind power from the first game. This is just a particular mechanic that we're exploring to give players the chance to kind of be in Chloe's world a bit.
And this would inevitably show us different sides to Chloe as well, wouldn't it? Because I think for a lot of us, with the original Life is Strange, we just saw kind of one side of her.
That's right.
So, we might see different sides of her using this mechanic.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I think in general, through the course of the game, we're going to see aspects of Chloe that feel totally familiar from the first game, that kind of edginess that she has, and at times anger. But we're also exploring much more of her interior world, and I think fans are going to get a chance to see some surprising angles to her personality and her character, sort of funny moments with Chloe, some gentler moments, some more vulnerable moments as well.
Chloe can be kind of a polarizing character.
That's
she
right.
certainly has her fans. Some people are maybe a little bit less enthusiastic about it. But I mean, obviously, you write for this character. Like, what are your thoughts on writing for a character that can be polarizing?
I think everyone in the writers' room has had obviously really bad days. Sure. We've all grown up and gone through adolescence and those teenage years that can be so brutal. And I think playing up those aspects with Chloe, the kind of hardness to her, that's been easy because we're all pretty familiar with that. And it's a very vibrant element of the character in the first game. The more challenging parts, I think, have been finding nuance to her personality and to her character and to her history, and looking at how to craft a story that shows, I think, more depth and more sort of an explanation as to how she becomes that blue-haired beanie-wearing badass that we know from the first game.
I mean, I like just thinking back to my teenagehood. I was an idiot. Like I was like an awful teenager.
Yeah.
I was terrible. Have you been consulting with teenagers? With terrible teenagers,
Yeah.
you know, to help flesh out this character and make her real? Because, you know, I looked back at my teenagehood with sort of rose-tinted glasses, but really, I was awful.
Yeah, I think everyone in the writer's room at Deck 9, well, we have a pretty broad range. So I'm the lead writer. I'm the oldest writer. I'm 35. It's been a while since I was a terrible teenager. But our youngest writer, Mallory, is 20 and currently a student in a film school in Colorado. So we do have for her, it's a little bit more recent, I think. And I think across the board, we're all pretty familiar with those worst aspects of our youth. And I think that's been one of the more fun elements of crafting Chloe, connecting to that past, yeah.
So we know the story you're telling takes place 3 years prior to the original Life is Strange. We're going to be following Chloe, but we don't really know a lot about, you know, what the story is that we're going to be experiencing there. I'm sure a lot of that is by design.
Yeah.
But I know you've also said you wanted to tackle grief.
That's right.
That's like kind of like the big subject you're trying to tackle.
Yeah, I think you play the first game for 30 minutes, an hour, and you meet Chloe, and she's very obviously in this time in her life. At that time, that's not a good place. She's 19, and Rachel Amber, this person who means so much to her, we don't know why yet, has gone missing, and she's this girl who's just plastering flyers up all over Blackwell Academy. And so what we really wanted to investigate and kind of explore is what about that relationship with Rachel motivated Chloe so strongly within that first story, so strongly and so obviously, like with an intensity that made her so furious that Rachel's gone, and learning about details of Rachel's relationship with Frank, who is a character in Before the Storm we're going to get to see. That hurt Chloe so much. But we never saw the actual details of what their relationship was like. So we're really excited about Before the Storm, giving players the chance to see that firsthand and to make decisions and have sort of agency within that moment when Chloe's meeting Rachel.
I mean, I think like looking back, you know, teenage female friendships in particular can be very intense. How have you sort of kept that real? How have you, you know, that's a hard thing to write because it's a very specific thing to teenage girls.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think, so the writer's room at Deck 9 has 2 men, 2 women. So we have a kind of gender diversity that I think gives us some help here. Really, I think it's about channeling as much as we can the aspects of, I think, adolescence, and when it comes to this theme of grief that we're exploring, the kind of universality of grief. But for us, it's having a culture in the room and at the studio that is a real open criticism of every line of dialogue, every beat of the story, making sure that what we're doing is as authentic as we can make it.
Tell us about writing a prequel. It must be an interesting challenge for a writer, because if you're writing a sequel, it's totally open-ended. Who knows where any of this can go? But when you're writing a prequel, you already have like the endpoint that you're gonna bump up to.
Yeah, it's so I think there are pros and cons to it for sure.
Pros, pun intended.
Pros and yeah. So, well, on the one hand, the characters that Don't Nod created with the first Life is Strange are so amazing. Getting to tell a story within that universe and with those people, that's a gift. That's really fun. On the other hand, you're right. The canon that's created and that's established in what's essentially the future for Before the Storm is known, right? There's certain facts that we know about that story. We chose deliberately to situate our narrative 3 years before the events of the first game to carve out a space so that even the most diehard fans of Season 1, they won't know the ending of Before the Storm. They're not going to know where it's going to go because this isn't the story of Rachel Amber's disappearance. It's a different story. It's a mystery that we don't want to spoil too much about at this stage, but it has to do with what it's like for Chloe when she meets Rachel and why Rachel, the seemingly perfect girl who has everything she could want, so desperately needs the kind of strength that Chloe has at this particular chapter in her life.
Could you talk to us about some of the characters that you've revealed in between the last time we chatted at E3 and now?
Yeah, sure. So we had an AMA on Reddit where we did reveal that Samuel is coming back. Huge news. Chloe is at Blackwell, so a lot of the characters that we know from that school community we're going to be spending time with earlier on in their lives. So Nathan Prescott is a part of the story. Victoria Chase is there as well. We released some gameplay footage at Chloe's house where we see a text from a character named Steph, who's an all-new character for Before the Storm. She's in Chloe's grade. She's one of my favorite characters. I don't want to spoil too much about her, but she plays a pretty significant role in the story as well.
This is going to be a weird question,
Oh,
but
like
if I was in your shoes, I would totally do this. Did you read a bunch of the Life is Strange fan fiction that was created after the game was released?
We read some,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, these, you know, these sort of headcanons just have exploded because the first game was so resonated with so many people.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, for me, I would have gone straight into the forums and be reading the fan fiction. I mean, has that influenced anything at all?
Yeah, I don't want to call out any one writer necessarily. I think all of from within the community, right? All of the writers at Deck 9 have obsessed in different ways about different sort of sources to bring to bear in crafting a story. So I know some writers have gone a little bit deeper into that world than others. For me, it was about, kind of on a more somber note, reading a lot of grief memoir.
Right.
To get a sort of first-person account of people's losses and how they've processed that and how they've kind of lived with losing loved ones.
Now, even though there's no time travel in this game, is it true that there's at least one supernatural sequence that you're excited about?
Oh, definitely more than one.
Okay.
Yeah, Arcadia Bay is a really surreal place.
Yeah.
And we've taken a lot of joy in kind of going into that part of the world. So even though Chloe doesn't have a supernatural power, the ways in which we're exploring what her life is like right now definitely includes really strange and supernatural elements. It's a pretty vague way to say what I said, but
It's not quite Twin Peaks, though.
no, it's close. We're trying.
That's what we're aiming for. That's the tone. You're just days away from the release, Episode 1, Life is Strange Before the Storm. What are you most excited about for players to experience?
Every single second of Episode 1. I really can't wait to listen to the fan community, hear them, get to put the game in their hands and just see what they think, see what they feel.
Playing the original Life is Strange, the romantic angle was quite subdued. It was quite subtle.
Sure.
What is it like in Life is Strange? Is it Before the Storm? Is it more accessible?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
We're deliberately exploring Chloe and Rachel's relationship. There are a lot of really strong opinions about what that relationship means. I think the content in the first game is very clear that the relationship was significant, incredibly strong for Chloe. The details, whether or not it was romantic, in my opinion, it is deliberately ambiguous. But what we've built into Before the Storm is the opportunity for the player to explore a romantic relationship with Rachel and what that might mean, maybe more overtly than you'd see in the first game. Yeah.
Have you got your own sort of preference? I mean, is there sort of one, is there one story that you're like, yes, like players can choose what they want, but this is actually secretly canon?
I do. I don't want to say it. Keep it secret.
Maybe someday down the line.
Yeah.
For the 25th anniversary edition. Have you announced release dates for like Episode 2?
Not for 2 or 3 yet.
Okay.
Forthcoming.
So I'm just trying to think how long are people going to have to wait to
Hopefully not too long.
Hopefully not too
Yeah.
long, yeah.
And all the episodes are about the same length? What did
That's
you
right. So
they're about 4 hours, right?
2 to 4 hours of content. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
That's right.
And yeah, I mean, I'm also really interested, we've seen the mill, we've seen some of Blackwell. We go back to Blackwell.
Yep.
I mean, what other kind of environments and spaces are you exploring in Chloe's teenage world?
So spaces that are familiar are her house, obviously. I think we released footage of that, and you're going to get to interact with Joyce and with David, who's this very new presence in the Price house. He doesn't live there. He's dating Joyce, and that's a kind of invasion that Chloe and the player will have to deal with. Very quickly, in the course of episode 1, we're going to see Chloe and Rachel kind of go to other places in Arcadia Bay that we've never been. They skip school. They have a sort of adventure. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting.
How fun has it been seeding Easter eggs into before the storm?
Well,
I mean, you must have done it.
Yeah.
You must have been like trying to restrain yourself.
That's what it is. It's I think practicing the right kind of discipline. We're giant fans of the first game in the nerdiest way possible, so we want to put it. Our instinct at first is to put a lot of Easter eggs in.
Yeah. All right, Zach, thank you so much for coming back to the IGN stage. Life is Strange. Before the Storm, episode 1 is out very soon, August 31st.
Thank you, guys.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, more to come from IGN live at Gamescom. Coming up next.